You are listening to Fantha tracks.
We've all heard stories of the Mandalorian bounty hunter and a child.
You're listening to Making Tracks Reaction Chat, breaking down the latest in Star Wars programming.
I'll take out every bad guy in your deck of cards.
Here are your hosts,
We need a professional.
Mark Mulcaster and Mark Newbold.
Good luck. You're gonna need it.
This is the way. This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
Hello and welcome to this very special live walking around London Mandalorian and Grogu reaction chat. So it's Monday night, 18th of May. We've just had the media screening, or media preview I should say. We've been at the BFI IMAX just by Waterloo and we've just seen the full film. So we're going to talk as spoiler free as we possibly can. So Mark, how was that for you?
How was that for me? Well, firstly, like you said, it's always a joy to be invited to these things. So thank you to Disney UK and Lucasfilm, of course, and everybody else for making us feel so welcome. So it was, as a return to Star Wars, or for Star Wars on the big screen after nearly 7 years, it was solid. It was very safe.
Yes, yeah.
It was very safe. There's a lot of action, and the action is fantastic. Really, in places, fantastic. There's a lot of humour. We had a lot of laughs. I've been at comedies that people have thought were brilliant that have had less laughs than this. So there's a lot of humour in it, and not laughs for the wrong reasons. Laughs very much for the right reasons.
Yeah.
So a lot of heart, a lot of humour, a lot of charm.
Yeah, lots of. I always kind of go back to that statement that George Lucas used to tell people. I think in the prequels, dare to be cute. This is very cute in places.
It is, and unashamedly.
Yeah, I mean, they have doubled down on the Grogu cuteness. There was definitely a few kind of R's and what have you coming from the seats behind.
Yeah, the Anzellans, as everybody knows, the Anzellans are in this.
Yeah,
there was a lot of humour with the Anzellans, so that worked. Yeah. That very much worked, I think, for the project. Mando is classically Mando, now working for the New Republic, as we know from the end of Mando Season 3, and that worked out really well. I think that's a nice scenario to put his character in.
It's actually quite a tight story. It's
very
very
much
tight.
is, yeah.
And actually, as we were watching the credits, as the credits rolled up, you kind of notice actually it's not a very big cast, is it?
Not at all. I'd say 20 people, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think it's unfair to describe this, and I have when I've spoke to people before seeing it tonight. Obviously, we saw the first 20 minutes last week. Because of those opening credits, you could say this is a creature feature, and if you like that, if you like the alien side of Star Wars, and who doesn't, Hutts, and there's all sorts of creatures in this, classic and familiar, and plenty of new ones, and stuff we've seen in the trailers before, characters from the Dejarit table, and that comes into it as well. And so there's characters that we're familiar with, species we're familiar with. So it is a creature feature in that sense. But yeah, I was quite surprised how few names and how few faces are in it. Yeah.
Like you said, generally overall, I was thinking, seeing early reviews from people who'd seen like really advanced screenings and like kind of testing and stuff. Yeah. But I thought it was, just like a feature-length TV episode. But it's definitely bigger than that.
Oh, without doubt.
Yeah. And some of the action set pieces and stuff are really big. And
I'll make a comparison. Yeah. Because I always compare it to Star Trek.
I knew you were going to talk about Generations.
Exactly. Yeah. I was kind of concerned. I love Generations. I was kind of concerned that it would feel more like Generations and less like First Contact. But I've got to say, in places, it felt like First Contact. And by that comparison, I mean First Contact feels like it's got nothing to do with the TV series. Yeah. And there's sequences and scenes and moments in that felt like it was a big screen Star Wars adventure, not a TV continuation. Yeah. But by the same token, there were times and moments and scenes in that did feel very much like they were straight off the TV episode. Yeah. Things that Grogu did, things that happened, the way, I wouldn't say the performances, maybe the scripting of it felt more episodic, more television style than cinematic. So it's a real mixed bag in that sense, I feel.
It will be very difficult to do any kind of film version of a TV show and it not feel very TV, because it's
inherently to its bones it's a TV show.
Yeah. And so therefore there's a certain style, and there's also a certain level of the language of like the shots that they've used and the cinematography is slightly kind of like leaning that way. But then they've opened up the scope a lot, and I couldn't tell you exactly what the numbers were, but I would probably say about 50 minutes of that felt like it was shot on IMAX.
Yeah.
I noticed anyway, and that might be because I'm slightly more observant.
Sure.
Because I
work in the industry, yeah.
Well, I was going to say, one of the things that I do is, is do QC
of course.
Of TV shows and that. So you notice, I notice stuff like that. So the letterbox kind of jumps in and out on the IMAX. You're not necessarily, you're not going to see that anywhere else.
No, that's true.
So it's only the IMAX version. Some people might get bothered by that. It didn't really bother me. I mean, there was a few times that actually, when you kind of jumped back in from the IMAX into like a letterbox, it felt kind of quite small and constrained.
Yeah.
But I think that was probably also a deliberate choice.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video and social media feeds, bookmark FanthaTracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
For me, some of the CGI creatures just didn't hold up maybe as well as they possibly could.
There's a lot going on in there, an awful lot, and that's one thing that I think people will really appreciate from this film. When they come out, there's a visual scope to it. You know that they use elements of stagecraft, but now they've used more sets, and the blue screen work over the years has just improved so much that it's a real technical mixed bag in a good way.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. It's out there that there's Tippett's worked on it, so there's sort of stop motion elements in there, very clear in one scene, and it's a beautiful, to my eyes anyway, a beautiful homage to that sort of stop motion legacy.
Absolutely.
And it worked really, really well. In the same way that we know that in episodes of Maul Shadow Lord there's matte paintings, so they're really throwing in the kitchen sink, but it's done in such a smart, loving way that, as fans, long-time fans, you kind of pick up on that and love it. And if you don't know, then it doesn't matter because you don't know the history of it. It's not affecting anything. So this worked out really well. The huts in it look fantastic. It worked really well. Yeah, just to say, if you hear bells and ringing in cars, we're literally right by the South Bank. The London Eye is literally behind us as we're speaking, so that's kind of a very cool place to be at the moment.
It's quite cold, actually.
It is quite cold. It is quite cold. I've come out of that satisfied. I've come out of that happy. I'm looking forward to seeing it again for a couple of reasons. One, the humour. I like the humour. I thought the music was fantastic, so that's a winner.
It's a real mixture of like genres. Stay for the end credits, because the music at the end credits is quite interesting.
Yeah, you've never heard anything quite like this at the end of a Star Wars film before, that's for sure. And that's not a negative. Again, it's a positive. It's very, very unique.
The opening credits with actual people's names on it and stuff.
Yeah.
It didn't feel quite as jarring this time. But I do like that actual opening title scene, and actually the one thing that I really liked as a rebel was a Delphi base.
Yes.
I thought it looked really cool. There's
It's
a lot
really,
of ship. Lots of ship kind of paraphernalia and stuff there.
I like that in the same way, and they kind of almost framed it the same way as when you see a Massassi base in Rogue One, and it's kind of looking down at the sort of where the ships are laid out, and there's a similar shot in this. In fact, there was quite a few sort of shots. There was a couple of Phantom Menace style shots in there I saw near the end, and there's things in there that sort of stood out in a very positive way. Nice little tip of the hat to other things, and also the Anzellans from Episode 9, and there's different creatures and there's different species. You see Ardenian voiced by Martin Scorsese, obviously from Solo, so there's different things being picked up from different, very familiar areas. Embo from the Clone Wars.
Exactly, and that's actually what's quite nice. I think more than any other film that we've had, it is a real melting pot
massively
of
all eras,
characters and all eras, which I think is actually quite fascinating and really cool, because it's not even like a case of like you need to have watched like Clone Wars to know who Embo is.
No.
We've both got our other screenings to go to, like Friday onwards and stuff, and I'm really looking forward to it, because the thing is, and everybody's made this mistake one way or the other, it's very hard to judge a Star Wars film on the first viewing.
100%.
Because there's a number of things that kind of like you're looking at. Me, for example, that opening 20 minutes that we've now seen twice, I'm now starting to look at the costumes and that, and looking at the armour and that, rather than actually what's going on the screen, which it's just one of those things, because that's where my one of my focus is. And
that'll increase the more we watch it, the more we look at the periphery of the screen and look for there's city scenes in there, and you kind of know there's faces and there's characters and there's creatures and vehicles. There's things in there that multiple viewings will either emphasise or we'll go, I never saw that the first time. Yeah. But that's, like you say, that's all Star Wars films are like that.
It's definitely one that I think a lot of people are going to like. I think it's definitely going to have its critics as well.
Yeah.
And it's not for the story. There's nothing controversial about it. I mean, it is maybe because it's quite safe. It's very safe.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe
It's a mission. It's a mission movie.
It's a mission. Yeah. It's very much like it's a Mandalorian episodic kind of adventure. Just like a single episode. This could be like...
It's quite linear, isn't it, in that sense?
It's very linear, but also what I'm saying is you could have 20 of these and it would work just as well. As always, make sure you pay attention to Fantha Tracks, to social media feeds and channels and stuff. Send in your listeners' questions, your thoughts and theories, and especially we desperately want to hear your thoughts on Mando when you see it. It's your opinion, that's what matters. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
May the Force be with you, and we'll see you down the road.
Coming up next on Fantha Tracks Radio, it's Making Tracks Reaction Chat.